Hey everybody, in my last video I showed you the Craftelier jelly plate, and as I told you in the last video already, it is different to the original, so it has a different surface, it's not as sticky, and today I will just want to try it out with Distress inks, because I really like working with Distress inks and the jelly plate. Just because it's a nice surface to work on and you have something to squish your paper into, and also it's then not all over my desk, easy to clean, it does not glide away like a craft mat would do. So I will just see if this is working and how is this is working, and we are going to make a few backgrounds that we can then use later for the project, for cards, for collage, tags, whatever. And I'm inspired by a color palette that I put together with my members in an art supply haul, and by chance it happened that some supplies I ordered swatched out looked like a really nice color palette, and today I'm inspired by this color palette and I'm searching for colors in my Distress Ink and Oxide collection so I can recreate that color palette a little bit. I'm picking Rusty Hinge, Chipped Sapphire, and Wilted Wilderness in the Distress Ink version, and I have Seedless Preserves, Crushed Olive, and I think Antique Linen in the Oxide version. I think I don't use the Antique Linen later, and usually I would like to have the Seedless preserves for the ink version as well, but I don't have it, so I took the Wilted Violet. You just saw the paper pad I'm using. It's a drawing paper with 160 GSM. I just have that big block of it, and I just wanted to try out if it works with Distress ink or if it does not. It's a drawing paper pad, so it will soak in the ink a lot, I think, but I just wanted to see how I get on with it. I really like the square format, and I started by applying a few colors already all over the jelly plate, so I thought I have more options to pick from. And as I said, it soaks up the ink a lot, so it does not work on the paper. It does not run on the paper. It does not bleed a lot on the paper. So maybe it would be nicer, or the Distress inks would be used better if I've used a better paper, but I don't mind because I just wanted to play, and that's what I'm doing all the time with my materials. I'm experimenting, I'm playing, I see what happens, what works. Even if I think it does not work, I try it out and see what happens. And that's what I do a lot in my sketchbook for mixed media drawing and painting, and that is what I really enjoy as the fun part. After doing that first layer, I decided to pick some more colors to go with. I think that is the bundled sage and maybe the crushed olive in the ink version. It might be. And because I just thought that these greens would work really nice. And I only had the oxide green out, and I wanted to go on with the inks. The Distress inks are more transparent, they don't have that oxidize effect, they don't have that white pigment in them. I like them more, but I think the oxides are really interesting to layer up, to bring in more interest. And that's when you are a beginner and you don't know which ink pads you should get, start with the Distress inks definitely, because if you only have the oxides, you will get only flat and boring backgrounds. So if you want to have some energy and some color and pop, you need the Distress inks. I'm working my way through, I think, through 5 or 6 papers. I'm using the 6th paper just to clean my plate later in the process because I don't want to waste all that ink, but that paper didn't turn out that pretty, so I don't count it to the backgrounds. And by working my way through, the first one is already dry, so I can then work over the top. Yeah, I'm not starting with the oxides. I just decided to pick one oxide to go in the first layer to see what happens. Usually when you have an oxide on a paper and then you work over the top with ink, with Distress ink, the oxide part, the white part, will always bleed through the top, so you can't cover it up. I really like the colors I've picked here. I think it's a very beautiful combination, and that's the thing about experimenting as well. You sometimes get color combos you've never thought of, and that's also something I really like doing, and that's what happened here. I just swatched these new colors I had, and then I saw that palette looked quite nice, and then I decided what else could I add to the palette that would work, or maybe something that should not be in the palette because it doesn't work that good, and that's how I come up with my own ideas and own color palettes. I've already used one of the backgrounds and I made a card with it, and that will be posted over on our shop blog during the next weeks. I prepared that video because I'm on holidays at the moment, so when this video goes out I'm not at home, and it might have been that there was no video last Saturday where I usually post a video, but I didn't have much time to get enough videos done. So I decided I stay with the Wednesday videos, and it might be that I have put out a bonus video for my members because I wanted to show them or to go through the materials I'm taking with me when I go on holidays, because I love sketching on location and I always draw a lot when I'm on holidays, and that's what I wanted to share with them. The last paper you saw, that is the paper that I decided I would use it just to clean the jelly plate, and maybe I will be surprised about the background. Well, it will not be the best background in the end, but that does not matter. I think you could always use it for collage. Okay, that was not the last. I don't know. One paper will be the ugly paper in the end. It seems that this was not the ugly paper. I really love the Seedless Preserves color. I think I've almost never used it, or not very often, and not on purpose because I like that color, but I really learned how lovely that color is, and I would definitely use it a lot more, and I will definitely, when I get the chance, I will buy myself that color in the ink version as well. Unfortunately, I only have the Wilted Violet, which is, yeah, it's also a nice color, but not my favorite color, I would say. And the original color palette I put together was with the Seedless Preserves in the Distress Oxide, in the Distress Crayon. And I bought a pack of Distress crayons in my last art supply haul. And because I used these crayons quite a lot in my sketchbook, not for mixed media so often, but in my sketchbook, because they make such a lovely texture on the backgrounds, and they are really great to bring in big blocks of color, and it's nice that you can blend them just with a tiny amount of water. And that's why I bought the the Distress crayons, because I needed to restock some colors, and there was the Seedless Preserves in that pack. So yeah, that's just the reason. Talking about the jelly plate a little bit, well, it works. I think I I'm not 100% sure at this stage because I haven't compared the two jelly plates at the same time. But I think the original jelly plate works better, and that's what I told you already in the last video. I'm unfortunately a little bit disappointed by the material because it's different. The surface isn't sticky when you have nothing on it. And yeah, well, it's not as expensive as the original, and it works just fine when you do usual acrylic paint prints. But it does not work for mixed media. I love using pan pastels on the jelly plate a lot, and that does not work on this jelly plate because the pastels will not stick to it. They don't stick to the plate, so you cannot paint them on there, so it's a bit annoying. As always, I will give you the link, the link for the blog and the links for the supplies I've used in the video description, so you can check that out. And I will post the photos of the finished backgrounds also on the blog, so you can have a calmer look, not that quick look at the end of the video. I'm going to use my stencil later in the process to bring in more texture and interest, and I will also use some white splatters to finish the backgrounds. What I always try to bring in some contrast, so if the papers are all a bit mid-tone heavy, I would say, I try to bring in something dark. And what I also took care about was that I do not cover the entire paper, so definitely try to leave some white areas or almost white areas for the highlights, and then bring in some darker areas for the contrast. And yeah, that I think that needs it in between the midtones, and that's definitely that bad paper I talked about previously. Also, what I really often do is for the final step, I'm using the oxides because they sit over the top better than the inks because of that opaqueness they have and the white pigment that's in there. I always try to stop myself when I see that the white areas become less. Because if you cover up the whole paper with color and you don't leave white spots, it just looks too flat and tends to look boring. And here I also added a lot of white and a little bit of that rusty hinge. And I think you can see what I mean on the backgrounds. That darker color just makes the other ones pop even more. And that is what brings in interest. In case you want to see more of my process, I'm sharing an exclusive video every other Saturday for my members. It's I would say less crafty, it's a bit more artsy, and I'm sharing my process. Sometimes I'm uploading bonus videos, usually once or two times a month, to just to share some extra stuff. And yeah, I think I'm sharing a little bit more in-depth videos over there. I cut apart one of our stencils, the Minimarks stencil. I cut it into 3 so I can work with the smaller pieces on their own. And here I'm just going through my papers to see which color I want to use to create the pattern over the top. And here I pulled out that mini jelly plate just because I thought it might be a nice surface to ink up these stencils. Of course, I could have done this on the bigger plate. And then I'm just stamping it randomly to the backgrounds, and I really like that texture you get. And I think it's a really nice way to bring in more and different textures to a distress background, just using his stencil and stamp with the inks, because it will not give you a super sharp image, but it will give you a pattern over the top. I decided to try this with all the patterns from this stencil. It's the mini marks stencil, which is just a mini version of our marks stencils. The marks stencils are very popular. The marks number 1 is already sold out, and we don't restock stencils. Once they are gone, they are gone. But we still have the marks 3 and the marks 2 stencil. I wasn't sure if you are enjoying the videos where I don't actually show a finished project, just the process of making some materials, I would say, making some papers or collage photo. But the video with the brushes and the stencils was quite popular, and I think you enjoyed it a lot. And hopefully you will do that too. Just let me know in the comments if you like these kind of videos, because that's sometimes something I would do off camera, because I thought that might not be the interesting part. Yeah, just let me know if you like these videos and if you want to see more of these kind of background papers, collage photo, collage papers, whatever. I will go through all the papers I'm making at the end of the video so you can see what I came up with. But I just try to work my way quickly to through the papers. I don't want it to get the video too long, because that's often also something YouTube does not like if you have a very long video. That's also kind of a reason I have that membership, because I'm posting usually longer videos there, because I think I go a bit more into the process. I'm often filming directly from the studio, which just takes a bit more time, and I do not cut things out, and that makes the videos a bit longer. And I also want to thank all the members of my channel for your support. It makes me very happy to see that you are enjoying the content, and yeah, I'm very happy that you trust me and that you would like to give me a little bit more support for the stuff I'm making. And it just feels that you value what I'm making, and that proves that I'm doing something right, and that I really enjoy that. I really like sharing stuff that is helpful for your art practice, or just to get creative. Finally, I decided to pop these prints with some white spots of the Art Craft Tailor Shape crayon, which is just the white watercolor crayon. And definitely the Distress inks will bleed into that white a bit, but that does not matter. It just brings in some more highlights and another texture in addition to the stencil texture I have. And I'm very happy how the backgrounds turned out. I think these are very lovely papers you can use on your projects, cards, scrapbook pages, tags, for collage, whatever you want to make. And of course you could make these papers bigger than I did them here, but it's a really nice size, I think. And I like that the paper is not too thick and not too thin, so I have the option to use them as backgrounds for card making or illustrating cards, or for collage. If I would use it for a tag, for example, I think I would just give it another base to sit on, like I did it in one of my last videos. where I made a tag from a background that I've done with the brushes, and I just used some black cardstock to mount it, and that made the color pop, and it also gives it some more sturdiness, I would say. Yes, and that's the last paper. I am done with the video. I hope you enjoyed it and it was helpful, or maybe you just watched this while you are making some of your own backgrounds and we just can share the time in the studio together. I will now share photos of each of the backgrounds so you can see how they turned out. If you have one that you like a lot, you could always make a photo of it and then print it out. So that's something I do when I have a background that I really love. I wish you a lovely rest of the week. There will be a video for members on Saturday and I will be back next week. Bye!